And I see quite a few people, joining us today who are already doing financial services, at, for example, the University of Pretoria. So Kanye Seeley, for example, says she's in her final year. Now, how does a CFA fit into doing a financial type of degree at a university? Do you cover some of the topics? Can you do it after you've finished your varsity degree?
Well, Kanye Seeley is a very typical kind of student that I would teach. In fact, I do a lot of work with the University of Exeter, who bring me in either the final or the penultimate year of the master's program. And so I'd be teaching people like Kanye Seeley to get through the CFA. Now, the CFA Institute themselves have a university program where if you've got a master's program that is aligned to the CFA content to a certain degree, then they will give the university permission to allow their students to study for the CFA prematurely. Because remember, you wouldn't be allowed to normally study the CFA unless you've got a degree or a recognized accountancy qualification. Remember, it's post-grad. So they give people like Kanye Seeley the permission to study the CFA because of the overlap of their program. And I'm sure if it's in financial sciences, chances are she will be doing we'll be doing quants, we'll be doing economics, we'll be doing accountancy as part of her degree course. And so because of the overlap, it makes sense to give that permission to those particular type of students. And what's amazing is that imagine that you finish your degree, right? And you've already got one, maybe if you're really hardworking, 2 levels of the CFA under your belt. Most of the guys that I teach, they've already been working for 2, 3, 4 years, and now they're doing the CFA. You'd be so ahead of the curve if you were in that position, like my students that I teach at the University of Exeter.
Okay, great. Jean, question here from Razonia. Now, I know that you were in Paris teaching a cohort recently because you shared some wonderful pictures from a suburb of Paris where you happened to be taking a break during your CFA teaching. We do get around to some wonderful parts of the world like Paris. And Razika here says that she's in Paris preparing CFA Level 1 for November. Normally, even if I wish to take it earlier, what could be the best advice to be well prepared and to pass? And that's exactly what you help so many people with every week.
Well, I think first of all, well done for taking the leap, Razika, and actually signing up and making that commitment, because that's half the battle. I think the biggest tip that I could give you is very, very early on, try to establish a rhythm in your study routine. Remember, for CF Level 1, you're going to have to try and assimilate more pages of content in the King James Bible. There is so much content there, and it just takes time. Most folk will agree that there's no rocket science there. You're not sending someone to Mars like Elon Musk. But there is a lot of content. So Razika, I would suggest really, really early on. Where are we now? We're in May. So you got June, July, August, September, October, November. You got a solid 5.5, 6 months, don't you? So what I would do is benchmark yourself, Razika, on about 1.5 to 2 hours a day. That gives you a bit of time to have a day off here and there. But from now, dedicate 1.5 to 2 hours a day. Get into that rhythm as soon as possible and attack the areas that scare you the most first. So that would typically be areas like accountancy and quants. Right? I know those were the 2 areas that scared me when I was studying my CFA Level 1. So I'd start with those, Raz. Begin with the harder areas first and establish a rhythm, and then get involved with our Facebook group, because a lot of the tips and tricks that I'll be sharing will be via that Facebook group, which we'll mention later. But that'll give you a bit more guidance as to what we're going to be doing to support students preparing for the November exam.
Wonderful, Jean. Thank you. And it's so important that we, listen to our audience, and that's what you've been doing as you've spoken to students and seen what works for them and how the memory tricks have supported them in passing their exams, etc.